Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library. And today I have another great guest on because it's always a pleasure to talk to entrepreneurs that know the process of building out a business, because it's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to actually do it. So I want to welcome to the show, Todd Buelow. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we jump into your journey and the story of Dualboot, tell us a little bit about your background. Kind of what was your life and your path before starting Dualboot?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey. Grew up with a mom that was a nurse and dad that was in sales. So I think a lot of my background was shaped by that. My mom was a servant leader, and so I saw that firsthand with being a nurse and people coming up to me at random places at the grocery store and saying what a great thing my mom did for me. And then my dad on the sales business development side, it was all about networking and meeting people and connecting people. So I think those two things really intersected with kind of who I became and who I've become. Went to Penn State, graduated with a logistics degree. Uh, Luckily, when I was graduating, I had the opportunity to come down to Charlotte and work for a software company, and then was my history in software. Because at Penn State, we didn't get in a lot into technology. This is around '96. It was kind of just the start of it. So I was very fortunate to fall into technology. Came down here and worked for a company called Medisys, a gentleman named Patrick Tien, who's also an entrepreneur here in Charlotte. And it was a great experience. Got the ability to travel the world, and that really helped increase my network by the amount of travel I did in that side. So from there, went on to help start a supply chain software company called eLogix here in Charlotte. We grew that very rapidly. Ended up selling to a company called One Network in Dallas, Texas. One of the challenges we had with eLogix was that we could never find enough development talent, and ended up when we sold to One Network, they did development all around the world. So I had the opportunity to meet great teams around the world. In between that, ended up starting a baby products company with my wife called Bella Tuno. And that company is doing great. Kind of our claim to fame is for every product we sell, we donate a meal to a child. And since we started that program, we've donated over 5 million meals through a partnership with Feeding America and the Global Food Bank. And on that journey, realized being married and starting a company with your wife are two things that are very hard. So we decided, my wife and I, it was best that I ended up consulting with her, and as she built the business, and she's done an amazing job on that front. And then from there ended up starting another supply chain software company called Cloud Logistics, and took a little different angle than the first company we started, where we did all customer facing activity here in the US. So I think sales and marketing, client services, implementation services, but really solve that development angle by using resources that a friend of mine and myself had over in actually Russia. So we built an office over in Russia, ended up building that company, had the opportunity about 4 years ago to sell that company to a company called Eda Open in Austin, Texas, and ended up having a lot of people reaching out to me. And then my other two co-founders of Dualboot, who also were entrepreneurs, with the question of, hey, you seem to have found this development issue or challenge or solved it. Can you help us along that journey? And we ended up starting Dualboot about 2.5 years ago. We're a full stack development company. We have about 120 people. We work with clients from technical to non-technical founders, as well as Fortune 500 companies. So
Okay, nice.
a little longer on the journey, but it's been a great experience. And so I've been in the Charlotte entrepreneur space since '96. So it's been a
gotcha.
fun place to grow.
Definitely a lot there. I mean, I want to go back to first on the logistics. Like, how was that switch going from, like I said, studying logistics to, software and tech? Like, how did you kind of make that leap?
Well, I was fortunate because the software company that came and hired me at Penn State, the Medisys, was a transportation software company. So I was able to use my logistics degree to understand that. And then they put us on client sites. At that time, there was no such thing as SaaS or ASP. We were installing the software at the site. So I got the opportunity to learn how to do some high level development and coding. So it really allowed me to intersect logistics and technology and implement it firsthand. And it was an amazing experience at that time. And I worked with a company called Monsanto at the time implementing it, and they were using a product called SAP, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. So I really did get very lucky early on with getting introduction into Fortune 500 companies, ERP, which is SAP type software, and seeing the opportunities that are out there with how technology is really shaping the world as we know it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, we'll definitely have to revisit that. The comment you made about, building a business with your wife, being married, and building a business together. We'll definitely have to revisit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something my wife and I we talk about at times. Where it's just like, it sounds great to build a business with your spouse, but the blurry line of, hey, what role am I playing?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what people don't realize. So when it's just you and your wife, it's easy, right? Everyone's making decisions, everything's getting done. But as you start hiring employees, there's going to be a time where you're going to be sitting in a meeting and you may not agree with the direction that your wife wants to go, or your husband, or vice versa. And someone needs to make the decision. And for us, we're both pretty strong-willed in our opinions. I mean, we're open and curious and things like that. But it was not an easy thing for one of us to sit back and be like, no, I don't agree, and not have that kind of spousal discussion versus like a business discussion. So we learned that a few times and realized, hey, this is it's better to go and let me offer advice, but you run the ship and determine where it's going to go.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, with being in the the Charlotte market, the entrepreneurship here since the 90s, I mean, how much have you seen it changed, or I mean, has it changed much from your perspective?
Yeah, no, it's changed dramatically. I think initially when it started, it was kind of a nice idea. There were some people doing it. There was Doug Lebda, Mac Lackey, Ross Saldarini, Stephen Medio are some names from the past. Patrick Tian was another one. David Jones from Peak 10. So there were some people doing it, but I would say the city wasn't behind it. And then along comes a gentleman named Dan Roselli. Dan Roselli ended up kind of spearheading and getting the city involved with it, and the city realizing, hey, this is an opportunity to grow our economy. I mean, I know we're known as the banking capital of the world, but banking jobs are actually shrinking on the Fortune 500 side. What's another way we can attract talent? And I think they realized that, hey, let's start focusing on fintech. We've got all the banking here. And from there, Charlotte's really matured a lot on that space. Now, ironically, as much as we've grown on the entrepreneur side, we still have a huge tech gap. And it's really the reason why Dualboot's around. So in the state of North Carolina right now, a report just came out from NC Tech, there's 26,000 open IT positions. And yet our education system still struggles with teaching kids K through 12 on technology. It's wow. Kind of mind blowing to me. I've got a 7th grader and a 10th grader right now. The 10th grader took Python development last year, and in her class was one other girl. But then most of our other class were what I would call first generation students. So I have first generation US citizens. So it's like their parents came over from maybe India or Eastern Europe. And so they understand the importance of technology and they made their kids take it. Multi-generational Americans don't seem to have picked up on that trend yet and aren't pushing their kids a lot towards that. And it doesn't mean you have to, as a kid, you don't have to love it. But when there's 26,000 open IT positions, there's definitely a need that you should at least have an understanding of it on that. So I'm really trying to push hard on our school systems to get that changed. It's not an easy thing. We have the easier thing overseas on a lot of that stuff is that overseas, the economic gap between a teacher and maybe a doctor is not that wide, or even a technology person. Here, a top technology person is going to make $150,000 to $250,000. A teacher may make $50,000 to $70,000. So if I'm a top teacher that understands technology, it's going to be hard to recruit the people that need to be teaching the kids on technology. Mm-hmm. Something that's going to be a hard thing to overcome, but I think using private people like myself and others can help bridge that gap.
Gotcha. Now, I guess you say for adults or professionals that are already in the field where they didn't get the technology background or they didn't have the opportunity to work with a technology company. I mean, have you seen any resources that people can, tap into to start, developing that skill set or at least the exposure to it?
Yeah, there's a lot of great programs that are coming out. Tech Talent South is one for. They were more initially kind of like 4 to 6 week boot camp on learning technology. They've moved more towards finding talent out of the education systems that are coming out that were not tech, maybe a Davidson, for example, that want to move into tech, and partnering with corporations like Lowe's to place them. But our community program like CPCC and others and UNC Charlotte are doing a good job of people that want to go back and get a technology degree or learn more about it. And the great thing about technology, you don't need a 4-year degree to really make an impact. You can learn a lot on technology in a year or two, or even less, if you're really committed to making the time, that you can quickly become relevant in the technology scene.
Got it. Awesome. So talking a little bit more about, Dualboot, I mean, what are the services and the products, the solutions that you guys provide?
Yep. I mean, at the the kind of the mission statement, we always say Dualboot provides on-demand product design and software engineering, and has the agility to start small or scale fast. Basically, boiling it down, that just means we build great software. And what our core kind of our expertise is getting people to market quickly. And it sounds like that's something easy, but when you're working with entrepreneurs, every day they walk in with a new idea. And so it's keeping them focused that, hey, we want to try to get something out in 4 to 6 months, and we're going to keep you on that timeline. Yeah, you might have some great ideas future, but let's get something out to the market. And the key thing when you're launching a company is you've got to figure out product market fit. Once you figure out product market fit is when you can start stepping on the gas. I think a lot of people think they know product market fit when they first start a company, but you truly don't know it until, one, you get the product in the customer's hands, and then 2, more people are actually buying and selling it or buying it from you.
Gotcha. Now, I guess, one of the things that I've heard a lot of people recommend is, getting a MVP and really start getting, end users, their feedback on it. I mean, and it seems like when I'm working with different entrepreneurs that come up with different ideas, they're hesitant to do that. It's more of, hey, let me perfect it, then share it. Have you noticed that, or?
Yeah, so I've experienced. So our first company that we started, I would say we wanted to perfect our product, and we spent a lot of money on trying to perfect it. And we actually did. The challenge was when we sold it, I got to see all our competitor products, and I realized we had a better mousetrap, but they knew how to sell it. Gotcha. So they were beating us on the sales. So I'm a big advocate of telling entrepreneurs, before you even start anything, you should have 10 customers. Doesn't matter what it is. And they look at me like I'm kind of crazy. Like, I don't have anything. I said, well, you should be able to sell 10 people on your idea that will sign up for it. And then you'll build your MVP out, so a lot of your money will be going out into the development initially. But once that product's out there, you need to flip your budget to almost 80% sales and marketing, 20% development. Because if people don't know about your product, doesn't matter how shiny or great it looks, they're not going to buy it. And I think at a highest level, a good case point is Apple and Microsoft. Apple came out with the iPod. Microsoft, soon after, came out with the Zune. The Zune was actually, in my opinion, a superior product, but Apple knew how to market to the people. Apple knew it was an infinite game, not a baseball game where it's 9 innings. Microsoft was trying to compete in a 9-inning thing, and Apple was more along the lines of, hey, we're trying to recreate how people do utilize their devices and things like that. And yeah, we have good technology, but it doesn't have to be they have to buy into our vision. Once they buy into our vision, and now, 15 years later, I've been on my iPhone and I can't get off the thing if I wanted to, because I'm tied to every, instrument that Apple creates from there. I've got the Apple Watch on right now. I've got my MacBook, I've got iCloud, I got my phone. So I think they did a pretty good job.
Awesome, awesome. So where can people find Dualboot online to see what you guys are up to, and where can they find you on social media to hear about the great things that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so dualbootpartners.com or dualboot.com. It's dualboot.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Todd Buelow. Also happy to connect with anyone if they have a heart for nonprofits, because that's where I spend a lot of my time is helping nonprofits specifically around mental health and addiction, because we've had that run in our family. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, and happy to connect.
Awesome, awesome. Now, the last question I like to ask every guest that comes on is, when you think about your journey and you think about the things that you've kind of learned, worked through, and where you're still going and learning, what's two pieces of advice that you would share with other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is scaling. Learn how to scale. You don't have to do everything. There's people that are better than you that can do what you need to do. And there's certain ways. So when we started Bellatuno, we needed an e-commerce site, didn't have any money. I ended up swapping a landscaping weekend with my friend he ended up developing our e-commerce site. So I'm a big believer that network is your net worth. So using your network to scale. And then the second part of it is just be curious. You don't have to have the answers to everything. Reach out to people and ask them advice, and don't be afraid to be curious, because curiosity really drives a lot of creativity in a lot of cases too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing a little bit more about your background and sharing your wisdom. Appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.